Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Thursday, May 30th, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Guilty, guilty, and guilty was said 32 more times. The New York City jury finds Donald Trump guilty for falsifying business records, violating campaign finance laws. Fox News is really upset, y'all. We'll break it all down for you. A Michigan judge is befuddled when a brother is driving during his virtual hearing for having a suspended license. That boy dumb. We'll show y'all the video. Also, in the second hour, we're going to talk about black voter turnout and how that could determine Joe Biden's fate come November. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin.
Donald Trump has gotten away with all of his law breaking. He's never been held accountable until he messed with New York State. Today, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg there's successfully prosecuted Donald Trump on 34 counts of violating campaign finance laws. He was trying to hide hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels, who he cheated on with his wife after she had a baby. Here are all of the counts. There were 34 counts, and that jury read guilty 34 different times. A panel of 7 men and 5 women were unanimous in convicting Donald Trump of those payments. They believed his ex-lawyer, Michael Cohen, who testified that Trump ordered him to hide those payments. He will be sentenced on July 11th, but will remain free. Michael Sozan, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress Action Fund, joins us right now. Also, my panel, Reese Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show out of Sirius XM Radio out of D.C., Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University, also out of D.C., Lauren Victoria Burke, Black Press USA out of Arlington, Virginia. We'll be joined shortly by attorney Scott Bolden, a regular legal analyst on our show as well. This was quite the interesting day here, Mike. And of course, Trump never held accountable for his actions. Today, he is now a convicted felon.
That's right. Thanks for having me on, Roland. I mean, that I think is the big headline here. This is a huge day for accountability and the rule of law. I mean, we are a nation where no one is supposed to be above the law, not even a former president. And as you said, these were unanimous verdicts, guilty on all 34 counts. This was a case that some people said from the beginning was going to be too tough to prove, but I think that the DA's team did an excellent job. Donald Trump had every opportunity to present his case. The judge was fair-minded. Trump tried to bend the rules along the way and was found in violation of a gag order 10 different times. He could have taken the stand if he wanted to set the record straight, as he says. He's still saying it's rigged. But this is a big day. It's a sober day as well. It's not really a cause for celebration. I mean, this is the first time that a president or a former president has been convicted of crimes. But this is a big day for accountability in this country and for this democracy.
Well, the thing that jumps out at me, again, the sign above the Supreme Court says equal justice under law. And the reality is this here. Republicans, they don't believe that. They have defended this man. I mean, I was driving in, listening to Sirius XM Radio, and oh Lord, the Fox News. There wasn't a single person on Fox News who was presenting a fair and balanced perspective on this. It was all kissing up to Trump. Janine Pirro, she said, "I've been in this system 32 years, and I'm just so disillusioned today." Really? Really? It was clear. First of all, I got to keep reminding people, Michael Cohen was prosecuted by the Trump Department of Justice for the same crimes. His lawyer. So to act like, oh, that was good, but prosecuting him is bad, that's crazy.
Yep, that's right. And I was tuned into Fox News a little bit after the verdict as well. As I was going through the various channels, and you're right, they're already trying to reaffirm what Trump is saying, that this is a rigged system, that this was a rigged trial from the beginning, and that, as always, they're saying that this was coordinated somehow with Joe Biden, and that this is in some ways Joe Biden trying to interfere with the election that he allegedly feels he's going to lose. So he's got to resort to these tactics. But there's no evidence for any of that. We see right through that. And so it's another example of how so many people in this country live in 2 media ecosystems, and they can look at the same set of facts and reach wildly different conclusions. But I think that the majority of Americans, especially those who haven't chosen a side, who are open to facts and law and fairness and justice, are going to see this verdict. And I think many of them are going to have a real problem supporting Donald Trump, voting for Donald Trump in the November election. This is just a real watershed moment. And I think and I hope that for the good of democracy, that Americans are going to take a really good look at this verdict.
Reese, I could not help but laugh when I saw a poor little Megyn Kelly. She sent this tweet out after the verdict. Go to my iPad, Henry. Guilty on all counts. The country is disgraced. Alvin Bragg should be disbarred. They will rue the day they unleash this lawfare to corrupt a presidential election. No, y'all will rue the day when you support a person for president who broke the law before he was elected, broke the law while he was president, broke the law afterwards.
Yeah, first of all, this conviction means that, in a sense, the 2016 election was stolen, because this relates to essentially what amounts to election fraud. And people knew that he was out there screwing porn stars while his wife was pregnant. His ass probably wouldn't have won. Okay, he wasn't that good of a candidate. All right, and so the whole notion that this is some sort of injustice, as it relates to this election, when they had 20 crazy motherfuckers who have the same positions as Donald Trump running for president, including governors, former governors, senators, and all kinds of shit. They could have picked any one of them, and he was on trial. He was indicted during the entire campaign season. They could have picked any one of them. This is y'all horse. Y'all chose to ride it right off into the damn sunset with his 34 now convictions. As far as the notion that we shouldn't celebrate today, hell yeah, I'm celebrating today. Are you kidding me? For what? You have a powerful, wealthy, questionably wealthy white man who is being held to the same system that he has celebrated and he has perpetuated in terms of one of his first orders of business was getting Jeff Sessions to increase the penalties for things like weed. Hell yeah, I'm celebrating. The same motherfucker that took out a full-page ad to call for the death penalty for teenagers who were wrongfully accused, the exonerated 5. Hell yeah, I'm celebrating. I don't know if you're going to go to jail, probably not, but today is a day to celebrate for me.
Lauren Victoria Burke, again, when you look at this case, you saw all these Republicans going to that courtroom, sucking up to Trump, dressed alike, looking like they were pledging Trump fraternity at Trump University. They all had to be hazed into doing that, defending him. And it's just, I mean, again, you listen to the whining and complaining and you go, really? I thought y'all were the law and order crowd.
Yeah, certainly they're law and order until, of course, law and order arrives at their door. I mean, it's understood that the justice system in this country is not equal. I will say, though, this is not my favorite case. This is not my favorite Trump case at all. The election interference case, in my view, is the best of the cases that have been presented. I wish these prosecutors had organized this a little bit differently, because I actually thought this was the weakest case. So I guess I sit here surprised that he was.
But you say organized, but the election interference, that's Georgia. That's a Georgia state case. This was a New York state case. Then you have the federal. So the reality is you can't organize state and federal cases.
Perhaps not, but when you're dealing with a former president of the United States and you understand that that's an unprecedented situation in American history, it might be wise to pick your cases and pick the order of the cases in a way that represents those facts and this historic moment. It is a huge moment, to say the least. And it will be interesting to see what the polls reflect from this. It will not surprise me if he benefits in some way from this, because we have seen the fact that his side really doesn't care about these types of things. And so where does that land in terms of what happens at sentencing, which happens right before the Republican convention? His side, of course, is making him the avatar of injustice, whether we agree with it or not. That's what they're doing. They're making him the avatar of injustice. And I'm uncomfortable, frankly, with, and as somebody who grew up in New York and can remember Donald Trump when I was like in high school. He's been around for a long time. And I understand that this case is very specific to the Stormy Daniels situation. But when I read the individual accounts about invoices and very, very interesting things that I suspect that Alvin Bragg has not brought up before. Of course, Alvin Bragg hasn't been in office for very long. But I would say that of all of the cases, this to me was sort of the most, I wouldn't use the word frivolous. These things are against the law, and the law is what it is. But I'm uncomfortable because I do see a pattern, a growing pattern of using our legal system as a political device, as we saw with Marilyn Mosby, and I think we saw it with Andrew Gillum as well. All of a sudden, Andrew Gillum is being brought up on charges. So there's a little tit for tat going on here, whether we agree with this verdict or this set of verdicts or not, that I think gets us in sort of a dangerous back and forth in our politics, which are already extremely contentious.
But Greg, here's the deal. You've always had you've always had politicians that have actually been tried for a variety of reasons. Right now, Senator Robert Menendez is on trial in New Jersey. There have been mayors, county commissioners. Hell, I spent 6 years in Chicago, and damn near everybody there is on trial. The reality is this here. It should never matter if you're running for president. If you broke the law and the DA brings it up and then you go to trial, then guess what? That's why you actually go to trial. Now, you can disagree with it after the fact. We can look at it and look, for instance, we can say, okay, Marilyn Mosby, you convicted her for accessing her own money. In this case, he was deliberately trying to hide the payments. And again, this is what still jumps out at me. His own Department of Justice prosecuted his own lawyer for the exact same thing. Now, had his DOJ said they're not going to prosecute Michael Cohen for what he did in this case, okay, now I hear your argument. But they did. It just came back on him.
It's true. I have to agree with Lauren, though. I mean, African people in this country, in the United States, are so hardwired to not expect, to understand how the law works. In other words, it's not about what's right and what's wrong. It's about power. It's about influence. It's about wealth. That when something like this happens, which is basically an open and shut case, hell, if I was Trump's lawyers, I'd have told him to take the stand. Why? Because basically a campaign, a rally going on in the courtroom. When we see something like this, there is a moment of emotional catharsis. I was laughing. Madison McFerrin, Bobby McFerrin's daughter, who's a musician in her own right, recorded a nice little song, and people are laughing about it, and it's wonderful, right? But let's be clear. These are E-class felonies. There's his first-time offender, nonviolent, white-collar crime, paper crime. The judge, Mershon, is not going to lock this guy up. We going to put a Secret Service detail on the floor with him? I mean, he was a sitting president at the time. We're talking about a situation where, and Joe Biden tweeted this out after the verdict. He says, one way to get rid of this guy, it's going to be at the ballot box. And understand, I agree with everything that's been said about these campaigns. Little Lynn Graham has tweeted out. Jim Jordan called it a travesty of justice. Steve Scalise, that white nationalist out of Louisiana, said that this is election interference. They don't care. This is a boon for him. MAGA Mike said it's a shameful day. Look, at a time when you've got two sitting Supreme Court justices who don't give a damn, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court told Congress today, I ain't testifying, and they ain't got to recuse themselves. What is clear is there is no rule of law in this country. There's an illusion of a rule of law, and there are technicalities, and there is there's a legal framework that might or might not be imposed. Donald Trump was going to be convicted. He's guilty of sin. If I was his lawyer, I'd told him probably to go ahead, because remember, it was on this show. Remember, Roland, when you were covering what happened in Atlanta and he got booked, we all said he's going to turn that mugshot into a fundraiser, and he's making all kinds of money. Last thing I'll say is this. On a day when it looks like the African National Congress in South Africa, for the first time since elections have been held in 1994, are going to lose their majority, and they might have to make peace with what they're calling the Center Party, which is really the home of the old white nationalist party, the Democratic Alliance. Imagine this. The biggest news in the United States of America is that Donald Trump got convicted of 34 E-class felonies at a moment that it might even boost his campaign, and it didn't disqualify him for being president of the United States. We should take this moment right now and be very serious. And Joe Biden said it's true. Only we can get rid of him is at the ballot box.
Here's the reality, Scott, and that is this. When you look at the job of federal prosecutors, state prosecutors, I mean, again, their job is to prosecute those who broke the law. Donald Trump, he has no bottom. So the reality is, it doesn't matter what it is. He'll campaign off of anything. He doesn't have any morals, values, principles, decency, ethics. It doesn't matter. And so I think what has often happened is I think he actually has escaped accountability because of that. Remember, it was Senator Susan Collins of Maine who said after the first impeachment, oh, I think he's now learned his lesson. No, he didn't. And so the reality is you can't factor that into the equation. This guy doesn't care, so therefore you must hold him accountable. Damn any other thing that may happen outside of that.
And the criminal justice system is about holding them accountable. So your guests, God bless them, and they're friends of mine, and the other commentators who live in this world of politics, and they have political answers, right? Okay, you can be political accountability at the ballot box, right? But if you break the law, if you have criminal intent to break the law, then the criminal justice system is built to hold you accountable for criminal conduct. And the Court of Appeals, a grand jury, prosecutors, defense, judges, Court of Appeals judges have all looked at this case and said, let it go forward. This is the criminal justice system at work, and this was a prosecutor's verdict within 12 hours. I mean, this case wasn't even close. And so I think both systems work, and Donald Trump can con America or con the GOP and RNC and con 45% of the voters in America, but you cannot con the criminal justice system. You cannot con those who care about democracy and care about what is righteous and moral and good, and that they don't want to reprobate essentially to be running the country, who has run the country before, right? And so this duality is part of our democracy. They're not counter to one another. And so I think both are important. And I will tell you this, Roland, lastly, anybody that thinks that Judge Marchant, who's been the subject of vicious attacks by Donald Trump, his family been attacked by Donald Trump, that he's not thinking about putting Donald Trump in jail. I don't know many people walking around with 34 felony counts, regardless of what you think about the case or the facts, who are walking around without getting any jail time. It is a real possibility. Now, watch what I say. I told you this a year ago. I told others a year ago. This is the process. Watch and see what Marchant does. It may not be soon because there are going to be appeals. They're going to stay sentencing. They're going to be filing papers for sentencing memorandums and what have you. He may not go to jail right away. He may get through the election. But incarceration on the sentencing guidelines in New York is real, it's valid, and it's a real probability with Judge Marchant.
Mike, I saw you shaking your head agreeing with Scott there.
Yep, I agree with what a lot of what was just said. I also, from experts that I've read and people who have worked in New York State, jail time is standard for cases like this, for convictions like this, for other defendants. It would not be out of the ordinary based on what's happened in the past many, many years. I also agree that, chances that Trump will likely avoid that having to actually be incarcerated through his appeal after the election, et cetera. But I also think I was agreeing that, of course, we can look at the politics of this. We can look at this through the legal system lens. But, one thing that I think is really important here, again, to emphasize is there is some degree of accountability here. And many, many Americans have been hoping for that vis-a-vis Donald Trump. He has continued to bend every law and rule and norm his way for many, many years. And Americans are getting sick and tired of that. And so this is a good day for accountability, where it shows that no one is above the law. And the other point I'll just make is that I agree that some of the other cases, the prosecutions that are ongoing, either in Georgia or the D.C. prosecution for Trump's plot to overthrow the election, or even the prosecution that's ongoing regarding Trump keeping the classified documents, those are more important in some ways. But they all go back to the central point that he continues to break the law in order to gain power and then to hold on to power. And that's been a throughput for much of his career, and certainly since he ran for president in 2016. And so today, I think, is a big day for accountability.
Mike Sozan, I certainly appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot. Going to go to a quick break. We come back. We'll continue this conversation, folks. And we'll also be talking with Randall Pinkett, who, of course, was on The Apprentice with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, guilty, 34 counts in New York City. Republicans are absolutely angry today. I ain't seeing white folks this bad since OJ was found not guilty. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
On the next A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking all things mental health and how helping others can help you. We all have moments where we have struggles, and on this week's show, our guests demonstrate how helping others can also help you. Why you should never stop giving and serving others on the next A Balanced Life here on Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
He cheated on his wife with a porn star. He cheated his business by making fraudulent payments to keep her quiet. And he cheated in the election by never disclosing those payments. Now, Trump is a convicted felon after being found guilty by a jury of his peers for falsifying business records, covering those payments up, and committing a campaign finance violation. Donald Trump, cheater, felon, unfit to be president. Republican Accountability PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
That right there, folks, was from the Republican voters against Trump. They have been very vocal when it comes to Donald Trump. Also, I was looking at this here, and you know what? The folks of the Lincoln Project, they don't waste any time. Watch this.
Donald Trump found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree.
You're a criminal, Donald. That's what the jury said. Not the deep state, not the Democrats, not the Biden administration. A jury. Regular people who saw the evidence and felt sick. You're a criminal, and you did it to yourself.
Nobody's ever seen anything like this. It's a shame.
Your defense was weak because you're weak. They had no argument because there is no argument. You were too scared to testify because you knew Donald. You know. You're guilty. Guilty as sin. Guilty as charged.
That was music to your ears, Reese. Reese, you were a little excited right there.
That was some good shit. Listen, I know that I'm not the gravitas person on the panel, so I will fly that flag today. I'm going to wear that hat and I'm going to wear that cape. I am the low down in the gutter ass person on the panel. And today is one of those days where I think I'll come in great handy, because at the end of the day, we don't need to take cues from Republicans. Republicans will exploit anything. They'll make some shit up to exploit. So the whole idea that we're handing something to Republicans, handing something to Trump, I don't buy that. Because they don't have to be handed anything. They will do whatever it takes. There's no law they're unwilling to go in order to maintain power, maintain their grip on power. And so what the Democrats need to do is take a cue from that ad and remind people that you are facing a president. Okay, Joe Biden, oh, he tripped over a sandbag, whatever. You are facing the choice between a now 34 times convicted, and a win is a win. I don't give a damn if he was convicted of 34 traffic tickets. I'm calling his ass a felon. That's what he is. The same way if you were convicted of cashing a bad check, you a felon, or any other thing that they want to hang around your head as a scarlet letter for the rest of your life, I'm going to hang that around his head. And so I want the Democrats, I was disgusted when Biden said he had no further comment. Are you kidding me? This person is almost kicking your ass in many battleground polls, and he just got convicted of 34 counts. They need to be matching the energy as much as the Republicans are going to try to leverage this and make him out to be some sort of martyr and some sort of victim. Then you need to be reminding people of any kind of sense, which I do think outnumber the Republican voters. It's just that people don't vote. That you are looking at a 34-time convicted, now 50-something more additional indictments that he's facing twice impeached president, who, by the way, when he was president, 500,000 people died of COVID under his watch and all kind of shit that went wrong. That's the kind of thing that you need to be hammering home. This is not a normal election. To treat Donald Trump as a normal opponent, as just another old guy who you may like a little bit more, is malpractice. So I hope that they don't be scared like they always are with this. I hope that people don't try to, shy away from this and think that it's going to speak for itself. You have to drive this point home. The same way on the other side, they're going to drive it home that he's innocent and he's a victim.
I know this is AI, but this is another video that was on the Lincoln Project's page. See, here's the thing, and this is why I think also it's absolute karma, Lauren, because I have watched folks on the right. I have watched them just say everything. I've watched their actions. I mean, I'm looking at the pathetic Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick. I have watched this man. I watched them last week celebrate the release from prison via a pardon of a racist white man who killed a white Black Lives Matter protester. And they talked about and gave him his gun rights back. That's right. And they talked about, how this was important and this man stood his ground. Yet today, here's the same Dan Patrick. Here we go to my iPad. Today's guilty verdict against President Trump is an absolute travesty of our judicial system. There was no crime, and the prosecution's star witness was a convicted liar and an admitted thief. The judge was biased against President Trump throughout the entire trial. This will be reversed at some point, but the Democrats got what they wanted: to prosecute and persecute a man they know they cannot beat in November. If the justice system can do this to a former president, it can do it to anyone in America. That should frighten every American. New York and Biden have turned our country into a third world style justice system that goes after political opponents like you see in Russia or North Korea. It's a sad day for America. He is defending somebody who has said if he's elected again, he is going after his political opponents. He is defending a man who said, if I get elected, I will unleash the IRS against my political opponents, who literally argued in court that a president can have a political rival assassinated. I want them to feel all this damn pain for because again, these people have no bottom. Mm-hmm. And if you got to get his ass by any means necessary. Especially because again, the bottom line is you can't just keep letting somebody flout, and go, look at all Democrats. I don't know how people gonna react if we go after him. Y'all don't say it to nobody black. You has break the law. It's black. Who's the brother? Sat in Rikers Island for 3 damn years, accused of stealing a backpack, and they got
Haley Browder.
Right. So I don't give a damn about this punk ass getting convicted. You go after fools like this because you know what? They ain't got no problem going after other people.
Yeah, I mean, the double standard and hypocrisy is not breaking news. I mean, we've known that the entire time. They don't apply the rules to themselves. We understand that. But I don't know that the real victory here is about, 34 invoices involving Michael Cohen. The real victory is what happened.
They got Al Capone on tax evasion and he murdered people.
Yeah, okay. So this guy is running for president, is going to be the Republican nominee, and in 159 days, we find out where the real victory is. The real victory is who gets elected president of the United States.
You damn right.
159
and
days.
If this verdict
might feel good, and I'm sure it does feel good for a lot of people, and that's fine. By the letter of the law, what Alvin Bragg has done here is accurate. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is, there's 2 things. One is the obviously more serious case is the election interference case, where we had a bunch of lunatics show up at the United States Capitol in an effort to block the certification of a presidential election.
Okay, but Lauren, that's the more serious. But Lauren, that's the more serious case.
Obviously, that's the more important case. If you read the counts, if you read the 34 counts,
when is that going? But here's the deal, though. Okay, that's the more important trial.
Great. I'm glad.
But here's Lauren, here's what I'm confused.
What I'm saying is,
no, hold on, wait. Hold on one second. I gotta ask you a question. You say that's the more serious deal. Here's the reality. If you broke the law in multiple ways, okay, and there are multiple trials, okay, you can rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. You can say the Letitia James case wasn't that big of a deal. It was. So this notion that what's more serious compared to this one is irrelevant if you broke the law.
That's what I just said, Roland, if you were listening. What I said was, it's great. He broke the law. The letter of the law is what it is. Alvin Bragg is correct on that. What I am saying is that these cases, when you have someone who was the president of the United States who is about to be on the ballot for a second time, who has I think, a fairly good chance of being reelected, one would think that somebody, Merrick Garland, Alvin Bragg, Tish James, whoever that might be, may want to pick the most serious case to adjudicate.
They can't, Lauren. They can't. Merrick Garland is the Attorney General of the United States. He has no authority over Fani Willis. Alvin Bragg has no authority over Fani Willis. So when you say they got
we're not talking about Rollo on the street corner. We're talking about a guy that.
But Lauren, when you say they got to pick,
going to be on the ballot again.
But that's nonsensical to say they have. Lauren, it's nonsensical to say they have to pick when they literally have no jurisdiction.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay.
Do you think that these people don't coordinate? Do you think that you think Tish James and Alvin Bragg don't talk to each other?
They literally have no jurisdiction. None. How in the hell could they pick? What role could Letitia James and Alvin Bragg have in talking to Fani Willis? What role? What role could she? Hold on, one second. What role could Fani Willis have telling Alvin Bragg, slow your case down? She has no role.
I'll say it this way. This entire campaign with regard to Joe Biden, he's been running the campaign as a vote for me because the other guy is crazy. We all know the other guy is crazy. We know the other guy is immoral. We know the other guy broke the law. We all understand that. That has not worked as witnessed by what we're seeing in most of the polling. I don't think all these polls could be wrong. Maybe they could be wrong, but I doubt it. So that strategy of trying to argue that vote for me because there's something wrong with the other guy doesn't necessarily work even at this moment where we have a 34-count conviction.
Okay.
Because as we know, the MAGA Republicans, as you know, Roland, very well, they don't care about morality. They don't care about the rule of law.
Okay.
They don't care about fairness. So what I'm saying is the real victory is in 159 days. The real answer to it, if it works, is the election, not this moment.
Well, and here's the deal.
That's what I'm.
But here's the deal for me, Greg, how I look at this here. You can look at these things in a very individual way. And that is this here. Yes, you can say the election is the ultimate. You know what? There are people who actually said that with the first impeachment. There are people who said that with the second impeachment. In fact, Republicans, Mitch McConnell voted against convicting him because he said, he's been impeached the second time. No need to convict. We'll never hear from him again.
Mm-hmm.
How did that work out? So the bottom line is this here. For me, whether it's Letitia James' trial, whether it's Alvin Bragg's case, whether it's Fani Willis's case, whether it's Jack Smith's case, you just mow his ass down case by case by case by case.
Absolutely. The Democrats are not going to do that. I want to echo what you said, Reed. They are going to pretend as if they live in a society where the rule of law wins out and there are rules. They continue to act stupidly. Let's be very clear about this, and let's be crystal clear. Let's start with the last one you mentioned, Roland, the special prosecutor case here in the district. When did Trump? I'm sorry. When did Biden and Harris take office? That was January 2021, correct? Right. Jack Smith was appointed by Merrick Garland in November of 2021. No, I'm sorry. November 2022. Let's be very clear about this. Okay, can we just be very clear about this? The special prosecutor was appointed a year and a half, almost 2 years after Biden got in office. They want to play like there's a rule of law. Trump was indicted in August 2023 on those 4 counts that the special counsel here in the district under the sister, Judge Churkin in D.C. And she set a trial date on the 4th of March. Well, that she had to vacate that date because she wanted the immunity claim, Trump's immunity claim, to be resolved. And that has been, the Supreme Court refused to expedite that hearing, sent it down to the D.C. Circuit. The D.C. Circuit upheld Judge Churkin's ruling. And now the Supreme Court says they want to hear it. They heard the orals, and sometime next month, which is after Saturday, starts June the 1st, we're going to hear United States versus Trump. Bet your money that they're going to figure out a way not to make the ruling or make the most narrow possible ruling and send it back down.
Of course.
Delay has been the thing. Now that's on the legal side. But again, the political side is what we're talking about. Whether they coordinate on the Democratic side or not, the attorneys general in New York or Georgia or the federal government, of course, the greatest beneficiary of affirmative action in American history, Merrick Garland, drug his feet, is on one side. On the other side, you can guarantee who is coordinating. The white nationalists in this country, DELAY. That 5-letter word has been driving this whole thing. If they can get it to November, voter turnout suppression, voter suppression, all type of, their base is today figuring out ways to gin this thing up. And finally, the only way that the Democrats are going to combat that is to, as you said, Reese, take a page from the Lincoln Project.
One second. I got Alvin Bragg right now is having his news conference live in New York City.
Yes.
Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank the jury for its service. Jurors perform a fundamental civic duty. Their service is literally the cornerstone of our judicial system. We should all be thankful for the careful attention that this jury paid to the evidence and the law and their time and commitment over these past several weeks. 12 everyday New Yorkers and, of course, our alternates heard testimony from 22 witnesses, including former and current employees of the defendant, media executives, book publishers, custodians of records, and others. They reviewed call logs, text messages, and emails. They heard recordings. They saw checks and invoices, bank statements, and calendar appointments. This type of white-collar prosecution is core to what we do at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. In the 1930s, District Attorney Thomas Dewey ushered in the era of the modern, independent professional prosecutor. For now nearly 90 years, dedicated professionals in this office have built upon that fine tradition. A major part of our practice during that nearly 90 years has been public integrity work, including cases involving jurists, local and state electeds, public servants, and others. I want to thank this phenomenal prosecution team, embodying the finest traditions of this office: professionalism, integrity, dedication, and service. They are model public servants, and I am proud and humbled to serve side by side with them. The 12 everyday jurors vowed to make a decision based on the evidence and the law, and the evidence and the law alone. Their deliberations led them to a unanimous conclusion, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant, Donald J. Trump, is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree, to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election. And while this defendant may be unlike any other in American history, we arrived at this trial and ultimately today at this verdict in the same manner as every other case that comes through the courtroom doors, by following the facts and the law and doing so without fear or favor. I want to conclude by expressing deep gratitude to the NYPD and the officers of the Office of Court Administration for securing the courthouse, all of our safety, making sure that the courthouse and all of the other matters that are important in their own right continued seamlessly. They will continue to be and have always been incredible partners. Thank you.
And do you plan to request a prison sentence for this conviction? Do you think that Donald Trump's multiple violations of the gag order that was in place should factor in that request at all?
The judge scheduled a sentencing for July 11th. We will speak in court in that time. He also set a motion schedule. We will speak in our court filings as we've done throughout this proceeding.
Donald Trump has repeatedly targeted you personally and members of your prosecution team. Do you have a response to the former president after this trial is concluded?
I do not.
In February, you decided not to bring a case against Donald Trump. You criticized that. You criticized when you indicted him in March 2023. You criticized when people really started to understand that case. How do you think of all that now, seeing the results of that? Can you kind of put that in context with your personal history?
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day in matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Could I ask Mr. Steinglass, many people said the prosecution was masterful and flawless. Just want to know how you feel at this moment. Sorry.
I'll let you go ahead.
How do you feel?
Mr. Steinglass, I think some of you probably saw him speak for a little bit the other day. So he's done his job, as has this team. And he just told me, tell him how I feel. I think you said that. I will just say enormous gratitude. You know, our system, I talked about the jurors at the beginning of my remarks. We have a phenomenal system. 12 everyday New Yorkers. They listen to the judge's directions. They follow the evidence. You saw them in court every day. They were careful and attentive. And so I feel deep gratitude to work alongside them, to be a part of this system. And I just want to echo that this is what we're doing every single day. I mean, during this trial, just this week, right, a ghost gun indictment, Grimaldi's wage theft plea resolution, sex crimes, convictions, all sorts of work that's being done by phenomenal public servants. So we're before you today on this obviously consequential matter, but this is what we do every day. We follow the facts and the law without fear or favor.
If a jail sentence is in the cards, it is likely that Trump and his attorneys would seek a stay on enforcement of that sentence pending appeal. If that were the scenario, would your office object to staying the sentence?
I'm going to let our words in court speak for themselves when we get to the sentencing matter. I'm not going to address hypotheticals. They raise arguments, we'll respond. And I think your question really underscores an important point. This is an active, ongoing matter, right? We have other phases of this going ahead. We will continue to do our speaking about this matter, about issues like that in court.
All right, last one.
From day one, kind of the viability of this case has been questioned in all sorts of media outlets, all over the place, including from the defendant himself. Can you respond to any of that, how you feel now that you've gotten the conviction?
So my response, again, is I did my job. And I think particularly I talked about the history of the office. My personal history, I started as a prosecutor in 2003 in the Public Integrity Unit in the New York State Attorney General's office. I served also in the Public Integrity Unit in the Southern District of New York. These are kind of cases I've done personally, and it's a hallmark of the tradition of this office that I'm proud to lead. And I don't want to go into the whole body of litigation, but we now have a federal court decision ruling on the legal theories. We had a state court decision on the omnibus motions. But most importantly, today we have the most important voice of all, and that's the voice of the jurors. They have spoken. Donald J. Trump has been convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records. Thank you.
District Attorney, your office has been investigating this case since
Are you concerned about retribution if Trump is elected president?
You went to the Supreme Court twice.
That was Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg addressing the media after his office successfully prosecuted Donald Trump, 34 counts found guilty. Folks, we were going to talk to Randall Pinkett, of course. He was on The Apprentice about the producer of The Apprentice coming out today announcing that his NDA was up and he talked about Donald Trump using the N-word. Let's go to Randall right now. Randall, that was, of course, what before this jury came out with the verdict. Just got to get your thoughts on what happened today in New York.
I was surprised that they came back the guilty verdict, and not because I didn't think that the case had merits. I absolutely did think that the case had merits, but I also knew that this was one of the more difficult cases from among the multitude of cases that have been filed against Donald. The ability to show intent, to demonstrate the falsification of the records. We all know Michael Cohen's testimony had its challenges, but I got to say, as Alvin Bragg said, kudos to the jury. They were able to filter through the defense, get to the truth, and make a very strong statement about the integrity of our justice system, even when a former president who's running for re-election is the defendant sitting in the courtroom. So it's a sad day for America, but I have to say, Donald is not above the law. He would like to think he's above the law, but today the message is clear. Donald, you are not above the law.
You know, one of the things that I alluded to earlier, Randall, how this man has abused small business owners, people who did business with him, and then he refused to pay them, told them, oh, you can sue me, I'll run you into the ground, paid pennies on the dollar. His voters didn't care about that when he ran in 2016. He has said, I could shoot somebody on the Fifth Avenue and it doesn't matter. And they proved time and time again. And I think what has happened is, I believe that other people, as a result of that, have said, you know what, there's something we really can do because it's not going to matter. This to me is where I believe the law is totally different. This to me is where it's, as you heard Alvin Bragg say, no fear, no favor. Bottom line is, if you broke the law, we prosecute you. We can't think about, this may get his people excited. This may get them fired up. Frankly, if you're a prosecutor, you can't be thinking about, what President Biden is going to think. Bottom line is, that guy did it, and you go after them and you hold them accountable.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, flip that on its head. I mean, jurors weren't afraid of riots when Michael Brown's murderers were acquitted. I mean, the job of the jury is to focus on the evidence and focus on the facts. And that's exactly what they did. You know, Trump has long behaved in a way that was in many ways disrespectful to the office of the presidency, to the laws of our country. And we don't even have to go back to the way he treated the exonerated five, how he, looked down his nose at housing discrimination cases. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And that fed a narrative, I think, in Donald's mind and in his behavior that I can do whatever the heck I want to do. Today was the opposite. Today was arguably the first sign that our institutions were willing to stand on the law and say back to Donald, you do the crime, you do the time. And now I'm hearing the legal experts say that because he's a first-time offender, that he probably isn't going to do jail time. I hope he does jail time. And I hope they send him to Rikers, because despite the supposed white-collar nature of the crime, I believe we have to hold public servants to a higher standard. And when you're the president of the United States, or at the time running to become the president of the United States, this is put into proper context, you're held to a higher standard, which means I'm hoping the judge factors that into the sentencing guidelines.
The point I think that you made there, I believe, was incredibly salient. And that is, you keep doing shit because you've never been held accountable. And you look at everything. The brazen lying about his money, and the New York media loved it. They kept pumping him up. NBC held him up as this guru of business, and it was all a fraud. We know he didn't have all the money, and they created this whole persona, the Apprentice. And then he does whatever. He lies, he cheats, he calls people, says, I'm John Barron, a PR person. He does those. He doesn't pay people when it comes to contracts. And then, okay, fine, run a fraudulent foundation, charity, buys his own paintings, he does all these things. Just lies about, I've won 29, 30 club championships, and just put his name up there to feed his ego. That's what all this is. For Donald Trump to have to sit in the courtroom, had to look at 12 people who, frankly, he disdained.
Tell it.
He had to sit there and hear them say, guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty. Guilty. And 31 more times, and he has to get his ass back on that plane and fly down to Mar-a-Lago. And whether he likes it or not, he now has to accept, everywhere he goes, convicted felon. This is not the same as paying a fine.
Right.
And that is probably, that kills an ego like that.
It destroys it. Just think about the way he behaved after the E. Jean Carroll verdict. We forget. That was a civil case, but nevertheless, a verdict was rendered. And when they told him to keep his mouth shut, what did he do? He opened his mouth. And what did the judge do? The judge hauled him back into court. First of all, credit to E. Jean Carroll for filing a countersuit for slander. Hauled him back into court and said, we're going to levy a significant fine, and I'm going to tell you again to keep your mouth shut. But you know what happened, Roland? He kept his mouth shut the second time because the fine was significant. So this brazen, I call it privilege on steroids, and this surreal world that Donald has created around himself, which I was privy to having worked for him, is now beginning to unravel because reality is biting him in the butt, no pun intended, from reality TV. That if you keep this type of behavior on for too long, eventually it's going to catch up with you. And I think about folks who went into his administration, like Omarosa. I think about Paul Manafort. I think about Flynn. Folks who thought they could go into his orbit and escape unscathed. They started going down like dominoes. You had to think that at some point the dominoes were going to catch Donald. Today was that day.
Well, and on that point, Rad, that's why I always say you got to go ahead and take your shot, because he doesn't have a bottom. This notion that, he's only going to go so far. No, there is no bottom. What happened on January 6th, the fact that they were pleading with him to call, and he sat there in the White House and watched TV, and I'm not calling a damn, he loved it. That man has no bottom. So you got to deal with him. You got to hit him with everything in every possible way to just sit. And guess what? I personally believe, let's be clear, Biden beat him. The bottom line is this here. He can raise some money off of this. There is going to be a political cost. There's going to be a political cost, I believe, to this being a guilty verdict. And if we have one of these other cases actually go to trial before November.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this bodes extraordinarily devastating for what lies ahead for Donald. Again, I thought this was the hardest of the cases. I agree with one of your earlier panelists that the election fraud case is the strongest. They've got him on tape. He was again brazen in his approach. That if they can find him guilty on these charges, and I don't know if any of these other cases are going to make it by the time of the election, he has a very long and difficult road ahead. And the polls have shown that there is a segment of the electorate that has gone on record to say, if he's convicted, it would change my opinion of whether or not I should vote for him. Now, how much that's going to affect the polls, we'll have to wait and see.
Right.
But the point is this. It is now a slippery slope. It was a slope before, but now it's slippery because now the dominoes are beginning to unfold. And if another case somehow finds the light of day before the election, yeah, you got a problem, Donald Trump. You got a big, big problem.
I do have to ask you this here. Former Apprentice producer Bill Pruitt came out today and announced, he said that his NDA expired after 20 years. And he said that in Trump talking about Kwame Jackson winning The Apprentice, he used the N-word. This is from the Vox story right here. Of course, this was talked about beforehand, but here you have a producer who's on record saying, I heard it and it's on tape. Then you also, guys, let me know if y'all have that video. Then you have this leaked audio that came out of staffers, various staffers of the Trump campaign. I think it was Katrina Pearson. We don't have it? All right, it was Katrina Pearson, it was Omarosa, and Lynn Wyatt, I believe. They were talking, and they were talking about how to handle this video coming out, and one of them said, "Look, he said it." This here is this was put out by the Biden-Harris campaign. Watch this.
I'm trying to find out at least what context it was used in to help us maybe try to figure out a way to spin it. I said, well, sir, can you think of any time that this might have happened? And he said no.
Well, that's not true.
He goes, how do you think I should handle it? And I told him exactly what you just said, Marissa, which is, well, it depends on what scenario you're talking about. And he said, well, why don't you just go ahead and put it to bed? I don't know what the scandal is. He said it. I'm trying to find out at least.
Here you have Katrina Pearson, who just won a Republican nomination for a state house seat in Texas, who said, he said it. He's embarrassed. Your thoughts on what Bill Pruitt is released today?
I'm not surprised. Not at all surprised. I mean, this has been rumored for years now, and I've had direct conversations with other Apprentice producers who maybe 6-7 years ago called me up to say, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. He's on tape, and if this thing leaks, people are going to be coming to you to give comments. So this is not.
So hold on 1 second. So other Apprentice producers, other than Bill Pruitt, called you in the past to tell you that Donald Trump was on tape using the N-word.
Yes, they said the tapes exist. Don't know if they'll see the light of day because they were under the control of Mark Burnett Productions. But as a courtesy to me, they're like, if you are wondering whether or not those tapes exist, they exist. So again, no surprise. And even when I think about my finale from The Apprentice, and you know this story as well as anyone, some of your listeners may not recall, you know, there were 7 seasons of The Apprentice. There were 3 before me, because I was season 4, and there were 3 after me. The first 3 winners were white. Season 4, first only black winner, you're looking at him. Season 5, 6, and 7, all white winners. I'm the only winner across all 7 that he asked to share the title. Now, putting that out of context with what Bill Pruitt has shared, it begs the question, well, why would he do that? If I give Donald the benefit of the doubt, I say, well, that was racially insensitive, Donald. But I don't give him benefit of the doubt. So I say it's racist. Well, people say, well, where's your evidence? Well, now Bill Pruitt comes forward and says, well, season 1, Kwame Jackson and Bill Rancic, you had another white and a black in the finale. What does Donald say? Well, here's the receipts. We don't want to see an N-word win The Apprentice. Well, how will America react if an N-word wins The Apprentice? Which completely explains why when Randall Pinkett emerges in season 4 as the objective winner who he can't deny, he then says, well, how can I undermine the victory? Because I can't not have Randall win. The dude's undefeated. He has the best team record. Everyone here is voting for Randall to win. So what do? Ask him to share the title with the white runner-up. I was insulted then. I'm insulted now. And for all those who said, oh, Randall, you're a sore winner, you should have shared, really? Listen to what Bill Pruitt said after his NDA expired. Bill Pruitt only had the seeds that were planted in season 1 that then germinated for season 4 when I was in the finale. That's what I say.
Well, some people are saying, well, that's old news has come out. I think Trump released a statement saying Mark Burnett says the tapes don't exist. Well, now he's going to have to answer to one of his former producers who say the tapes do exist.
Yeah. And I give Bill credit because there's a lot of people in the Apprentice circles who are definitely afraid of speaking out against Donald. You'll recall I did a press conference when Donald announced his candidacy for president and recruited, or I should say tried to recruit, other former Apprentice contestants to stand with me in denouncing his candidacy. And only 7 of us, only 6 were willing to stand with me. Kwame Jackson, Tara Dowdell, Marshawn Evans, Surya Yalamanchili, and James Son, and then Brother Kevin were the only folks who had the courage to stand up and denounce Donald's candidacy. Again, history will prove that that was the right thing to do because there was never a wrong time to do the right thing.
Randall Pinkett, I appreciate it, Frat. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Frat. 06.
06. All right, folks, go to my iPad here. This is the statement from the Biden campaign regarding the use of the N-word. No one is surprised that Donald Trump, who entered public life by falsely accusing black men of murder and entered political life, spreading lies about the first black president, reportedly used the N-word to casually denigrate a successful black man. Anyone notice a pattern? Donald Trump is exactly who black voters know him to be, a textbook racist who disrespects and attacks the black community every chance he gets, and the most ignorant man to ever run for president. It's why black voters kicked him out of the White House in 2020, and it's why they'll make him a loser a second time this November. Greg, I'm gonna go back to you. The thing that is interesting to me is how after the mugshot in Georgia, and then this case here, and all these Republicans, oh my God, he's a political prisoner. They were just sitting here, just going with all of that as if we should all just feel sorry for him. And in fact, let me see if I can find it. I think Molly Beck. Did somebody was this? I think this is what the Trump campaign is already posted right here. I'm a political prisoner, trying to claim political prisoner. Well, first of all, you're not in prison, so I guess he's projecting, knowing what may very well happen to him. But this is the victim game that they play, and I just think look, you go after him. He cannot slide. And I think one of the reasons why we're here right now is frankly because a lot of Republicans they actually just thought, oh, yeah, he's going to go away. He's going to go away. And no doubt to me, there are Republicans right now in the Senate who are regretting, why in the hell did I not vote to convict his ass? And he is still running. So I hope he burns their entire party down. I hope he takes all of them to hell and back, and then back to hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's certainly an aspiration, and I would share that. I don't know that any of them would change their vote, because they're going to hold their nose, get their tax breaks renewed. You made this point the other night. The people who own them, the Elon Musks of the world and the billionaires who convened at Mar-a-Lago about a month ago, they have an objective. They can hold their nose when it comes to racism and inequality. Hell, they've been doing it since Jamestown. But a statement that we saw, I would have made a few edits. I would have said that Trump is doing what all voters know. I would have taken it out of black. And then I would have said, perhaps in that last paragraph, that that's why we will, led by black voters, defeat him in the fall. See, this is the problem.
Yeah.
Everything we talk about here in terms of democracy, the rule of law, that's very nice. It's very nice. But anyone who has studied more than 15 seconds of American history understands that's aspirational. So if we're going to talk about this seriously, and here I want to be very clear about this, set aside the legal arguments, because it's indefensible what Merrick Garland did and didn't do in terms of Jack Smith. We should have been here 2 years ago. But set all that aside. If you're going to talk about the politics of this is a very important day, because it gives us an opportunity again to seize upon that kind of visceral, emotional appeal and draw a bright line between those of us who stand with our common humanity, which means fairness, everything from health care and quality public education to a woman's right to control her body, all that stuff on one side, and the damn Ku Klux Klan on the other side. What they keep doing is mistaking the rhetoric. So I'm saying you got to go beyond just appealing to black voters, although you have to do that. You got to go beyond just appealing to Hispanic voters and targeting, micro-targeting. No, if you want to seize this moment, take it as an opportunity to say, we all stand for decency, and these nuts, including the billionaire-owned people in the Senate, including MAGA Mike Johnson, including the fascists in Texas and Louisiana that are saying now that if you got an abortion pill in Louisiana, it's a controlled substance, and we're going to pardon people who kill white people standing with black people in Texas, you got to say they are all on one side. They do not believe in what we believe. There is no we in this country, and until we don't get that through our heads, this man going to win again, and when he wins in the fall, what did Martin Luther King say? Everything Hitler did in Nazi Germany was legal. If you want, I'm not willing to bet my life and our lives on the aspirational fantasy. At this point, when they go low, we eviscerate them. Exactly what you're saying, and I'm not sure they've gotten that message just yet.
Absolutely. This was outside of Trump International Hotel in New York City today. Somebody took to the chalk. Guilty, all 34 counts. Thank you, jurors. I wonder how long they're going to use a water hose to spray that off. Monique Presley, Attorney joins us right now. Monique, your assessment of what happened today in the New York City courtroom.
The jurors did what jurors do when the evidence is put in front of them.
And let's be clear. There are other cases where jurors make decisions and we disagree. Disagreeing is not a problem. And a lot of people, you have these different legal analysts who are saying, oh, the prosecution, they made some serious mistakes. I don't know. The jury couldn't understand it. Somebody actually posted something, and I got to find it again, where one of the jurors here it is, Ryan Sylvie posted this. He said, juror number 2 said they got most of their news information from Donald Trump's Truth Social, and even that person voted to convict.
That's right. That's right. And that is exactly why I said what I said, Roland. And I think that what happened today, and I've said it any number of times, I still have a good deal of faith in juries and in their ability to come to right decisions based on the evidence presented. Many times when we disagree with something that a jury does, it has more to do with the failings either of the prosecution in a criminal case to put forward the evidence necessary for a conviction, or a defense to be able to rebut that evidence, or in a civil setting for the right amount of evidence to actually get before the jury, and judges have a lot to do with that. But when you get peers sitting there and listening to the evidence, as you're saying now, even ones who like you, even ones who may have voted for you, will listen to the evidence and be like, come on, mans, come on. No, we know you did it. You know you did it. Everybody knows the same thing at this point, and they take that particular position of sitting there and making that decision very seriously. So my first thing is, as the chalk writer said, thank you, jurors, for taking your civic duty seriously. My second thing is progressive prosecutors matter. I'm still waiting for all of the expert analysts, for the legal analysts, for the political contributors who never tried a case in their life but call themselves legal analysts, for all the opinion and thought writers who said this is a misdemeanor case, it makes no sense to put it first, they're not going to be able to change the misdemeanors into felonies. What is Alvin Bragg thinking? He should have backed down and let Jack Smith go first. And even after all the other cases ended up bogged down in delays, in motions, in problems, they were still saying, I don't think he's going to be able to convert the misdemeanors into felonies. I mean, we heard everything you could think of that would doubt the decision making of this progressive prosecutor. But at the end of the day, we're 34 up on this one case, which seems to be the only case that is going to go before a jury to actually require Donald Trump to answer for the offenses with which he's been charged. So progressive prosecutors matter. I can't say that without saying, yeah, I've spent the past couple of weeks, 3 weeks, months, however long I've been working, trying to help Marilyn Mosby get justice. A progressive prosecutor. Tish James, progressive prosecutor. Fani Willis, progressive prosecutor. Kim Foxx, progressive prosecutor. And the attack against them is on purpose, because when you put that level of discretion in the hands of a man or woman who, without fear or favor, just as Alvin Bragg said in his press conference, when they are willing to try the cases that need to be tried and decline to prosecute the cases that need to be declined and revisit the cases that need to be revisited, those are the people you want in those positions. Because yes, the system is weighted in the favor of the prosecutor. I'm not inconsistent in my messaging on that. Prosecutors win most of their cases for a reason, because they don't have to go to trial unless they want to, unless they got the evidence, unless they're sure about it. And that's what I thought about Alvin Bragg this whole time. I've been saying that for whenever, since the grand jury returned the indictments. He'll take that case when he's ready. And he did, and here we are.
Well, keep in mind, he originally dropped the case and picked it back up. Larry Sabato, Lauren, tweeted this out, said, hey, this is next week's cover of The New Yorker. I think that'll work. It's real interesting. Again, we're seeing the statements come in. Speaker Mike Johnson is calling this a travesty. I mean, all of these Republicans on Capitol Hill are just besides themselves, Lauren. I guess they're now criminal justice reform advocates, huh?
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, I think, what Greg said about the aspirational nature of what our criminal justice system is kind of strikes me in this moment, because even though all these Republicans who talk so much about law and order, like you were just saying, Roland, are now putting out these statements that are anti-law and order. They've been saying, of course, the entire time that, of course, Manhattan and New York is a liberal jurisdiction, so he couldn't get justice. Of course, they tried to change the venue, on and on. So now suddenly they don't like law and order too much. But, I mean, I was thinking about what Dr. Carr said with regard to what we already know about this version of the Republican Party. And unfortunately, I think that this moment does not really change that calculus in terms of it adds another huge hulking fact to what we already knew about Donald Trump, which is he thinks he's above the law. He thinks he can get away with anything. And now that he's been held accountable, it'd be interesting to see what the answer is from the political standpoint, which is where I come from in these things. And I think that it really kind of just adds on to the facts that we already knew about this person and about this version of the Republican Party, which I really think he's already decimated and already destroyed. We don't recognize this Republican Party at all from the Republican Party of about 30 years ago or so. This is an unrecognizable set of people that we're dealing with that don't believe in the rule of law, who say they believe in law enforcement, back the blue and all that, and then they watch their supporters attack police on Jan 6, and then all of a sudden that doesn't matter. So, I mean, the levels of hypocrisy are absurd. The party has become absurd, and this person is the leader of their party. And in a strange and weird way, the fact that this has now happened kind of makes him, again, the perfect avatar of what they define as injustice, though we may, of course, strongly disagree with it, what they define as injustice. And I just think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next, because there's really nothing about this day that teaches us anything new about this group of people. And as these statements come out, it's these statements that are coming out, as you said, Roland, are consistent with what we knew about this group of people.
Look right here. Here is Republican Congressman Mike Collins, Reese. Time for red state AGs and DAs to get busy. Oh, so that's so we're now threatening, huh? Okay, I see how we rolling.
That's what they were doing. That's what they are openly talking about, using the justice system as a political tool. They've been doing that. That's part of their big plan should he get back in office. They're openly saying that. They're not trying to fool anybody. This has been out in the open for probably more than a few years. Obviously, in Marilyn Mosby's case, they threatened Marilyn Mosby. We had to talk about Marilyn Mosby when she was in office about going after her. And that's exactly what they did. Like, there's no, they're not trying to pretend that that's not what they're doing. But it's amazing what happens when the game is turned around, isn't it? When they deem something as unjust, now all of a sudden the world is coming to an end with all these statements that are coming out.
Reese, this is, give me 1 second. This is that thug attorney general in Texas. From the beginning of this sham trial, I stood by President Trump, and my support for him is stronger than ever. As Attorney General of Texas, I will unleash every tool at my disposal to fight this blatant corruption and political persecution spewing from New York and the Biden administration. Fool, you ain't got no jurisdiction over New York whatsoever.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is what they've been doing. I mean, Crystal Mason, hello? Does that ring a bell? Brittany Watson, Ohio, does that ring a bell? Ron DeSantis in 2020, rounding up Black people who were actually eligible to vote, claiming that they were voting or intending to vote erroneously. Republicans have always had this playbook of using the laws to do what they wanted to do to persecute people. Look, the justice system ain't never been just to Black people. So them threatening to do what they already been doing is like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm glad that you're being open about it and that you're letting people know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, there isn't as much criminality, I must say, on the Democratic side compared to what's happening on the Republican side. But what we know about the Republicans is that Donald Trump is not the leader of the Republican Party, in spite of the fact that he has 91 indictments, now 34 felony convictions, in spite of the fact that he's been impeached twice. He's leader of the Republican Party because he is a chaos agent, because he has stated on record that he is willing to be a dictator. He is willing to flout all the rules, because Republicans cannot win when they play by the rule book. That's why they are constantly trying to change it. That's why they need the Supreme Court, which has been handing them win after win. I think today they got a win on gerrymandering, essentially trying to gut the ability to fight against gerrymandering. So this is very deliberate about Donald Trump. Like I said earlier, They had 20 other options. They all was crazy. They all didn't want abortion. They all wanted to bomb Iran. They all wanted all the same crazy shit. They all hate immigrants. But they chose Donald Trump for a reason, because of his dysfunction, because of his authoritarian impulses, because he doesn't give a damn about the rule of law. And that makes everything else they do look like small potatoes. So that's why he's there. And I think that, at least the statement that you read earlier, I think that's on the right track. But as Dr. Carr put it, we have to get out of these frou-frou terms like democracy and things that are just so aspirational and don't necessarily resonate with what people are feeling on a day-to-day basis. And we have to get more visceral. And so this is not an automatic win. I don't think anybody's delusional about the idea that Donald Trump being convicted is an automatic win. But it does give us a little bit of ammo, if it's used right, to help drive home the true danger of not just Donald Trump, but everybody who's willing to get in bed with him, to vastly and drastically remake our society to keep them in power, irrespective of what it means for the rest of us.
Greg, this is the CEO of the Federalist, right-wing organization. He tweeted, "Little punk." I didn't realize Little Punk even blocked me, but like I give a damn. Sean Davis. He goes, in 2016, the presidential race was decided based on candidates releasing list of potential Supreme Court nominees. Candidates, your guy. That's what y'all did. In 2024, I want to see lists of which Democrat officials are going to be put in prison. This is what happens when you cross the Rubicon.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I embrace it.
Wow.
I embrace that with my whole heart. See, we are focusing on something very specific today, and we should. But we have to look at this as well in the larger context. This is a moment when he says, if this were 1856 or 1860, that would be the same cracker with the Know Nothing Party, or threatening secession in the South Carolina legislature, in Alabama or Georgia. This is where we are headed because we've never left it. The federal system was set up for white minority rule. Mother Jones had an article, Ari Berman, of course, that you've had on him many times and talked to many times. He was saying by 2040, roughly 70% of the country is going to be represented by 30 senators. And the other 30%, largely whiter, older, and more rural, will have 70 senators. Now, yeah, that puff-faced Attorney General Paxton of Texas has no jurisdiction in New York, but when a woman tries to get misoprostol pill, if it's mail from New York and comes to Texas, and they declare it a controlled substance in Texas like they've done in Louisiana. See, what we're talking about is the unraveling of the country that was set up to be unequal. So what we are headed toward, this is why the guy tweets out and says, you AGs get busy. They never believed in federalism unless it could push their agenda. That's why they were lying about abortion, return it to the states. No, what you're trying to do is get control of the federal legislature and then control of the executive. You've already hijacked the judiciary and put a national abortion ban on. Margaret Atwood, writing from Canada, is not off when she writes The Handmaid's Tale. That's not just fantasy. What I'm saying is that we are headed to a crisis that we have never resolved. It was put in the document in 1787. It reached a huge crisis over enslavement in the 1860s. It came back 100 years later in the 1960s and the long white lash to that momentary moment of sanity. And we are now faced with them dropping all pretenses. And all I'm saying is we have to do the same. We have to do the same. Quit pretending like this is a grand experiment that we've all bought into. It's a white national settler colony, and these white boys are going to rule or ruin. That's the only choice. And on the other side, it ain't just black people. It ain't just brown people. It ain't just white people. It's anybody who believes in decency. And this is a moment with this conviction that we can make that point again and roll over these white boys because they've dropped all pretense. If you're a woman in this country, you're insane if you're voting for the Republican Party. The Democrats need to say that. They need to stop playing with these people like you can't build a bridge to them. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. I mean, we need to seize this moment is all I'm saying. Take this conviction and use it as the wick to set the explosion to blow up this white supremacist foolishness before they set the wick as they did in the 1860s and in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s, and 20, including storming the Capitol. And if Trump gets back in, they're all pardoned, calling them hostages, we got to understand where we are. That's all I'm saying.
And Monique,
you're right.
And Monique, Monique, of course, this day wouldn't be complete without Paula White weighing in. Pastor Paula White. She tweeted, "Today is a sad day for all Americans as we watched firsthand the judicial system weaponized to go after President Trump for political gain. We, the people, will stand up against this in November. May God bless you, my longtime friend, President Trump, and may God bless all of us who stand for righteousness. I stand with President Trump 2024. Hashtag verdict, hashtag Trump, hashtag prayer, hashtag pray, hashtag faith, hashtag hope, hashtag president, hashtag America, hashtag you out your damn mind, Paula White." And look at her. We don't know where her second hand is, but Monique, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Hashtag irrelevant is what she is, and I don't care. You can't pay me to care. I agree with everything that Dr. Carr said and everything that this moment means if it is utilized properly. One of the ways that I am hoping, rather than being concerned at all with the lost ones and anybody in the GOP who is still supporting this man with everything that they know about this man and not being honest about why they support, because there are two things going on. There are some that are lost. They're voting against their own interests. They're voting against their family's interests. They're voting against their own womb. They are into this man because hate is the thing that they want to taste. It's their drink of choice. And so they're supporting the one that can put that forward the best and speak for them in ways that they can't speak for themselves. Then there are these others who really are just concerned about their businesses and concerned about their taxes and concerned about their tax write-offs and concerned about what's going to put forward the best thing for them. And then there are a discrete number that are concerned about being anti-abortion and getting their fundamental religious type policies put forward, and they don't care. He can be nasty, he can be ugly, he can be racist, he can be indecent. I hear you, Dr. Carr, and they would still vote for him because of that. I just want y'all to be honest about why you're doing it, because if you're honest about why you're doing it, then you could end up with a better choice. Because I can still see eye to eye with GOP members who disagree with me about policy. I cannot see eye to eye with GOP members who defend racism and misogyny when really what's behind it is they support the policies. Just say who you are and what you are, and then I know you're not crazy like him and like them. So I think we have to get everybody at least into their proper groups. But all the while, what I am saying to Black and brown, and as Dr. Carr said, women folk, in any folk other than white male folk with means, you need to understand that what this jury did today with their voices, you can do with yours. What they got there and did when they listened to the evidence, and they, like you said, some of them got their news from Fox News, some of them got all their news from Truth Social, two of them were conservative lawyers. I mean, when that group got together and weighed the facts and had to make a decision, they made the right, but for some of them, hard decision. We can all do that. We can all do that very same thing. So I want this verdict to empower people who are on the fence thinking, there's no way they're going to convict that white man. There's no way any jury is going to rule against him. The system is stacked in his favor. No, it's not. No, it's not. You have an opportunity to do the very same thing. And now is that time to do it. This election is not about whether our taxes are going to be higher or not. To Dr. Gregg's point, we have been at this type of inflection point before in history. We are deciding who we are. Yes. We are deciding what this country is. We are deciding what a system of government looks like. We are deciding whether we want laws or not. Those are the things that we are deciding now. And everybody don't have to agree. I don't care what those Republicans who are supporting Trump says about that. Okay, let them be lost. Mm-hmm. We have enough of us. If we make a decision together, there are enough of us to make decisions about where this country is going. Will you be safe getting an abortion in Texas the way you would in California? Will you have a vote in Alabama the way you have a vote in Maryland. That's where we are right now. And this verdict today says it is in our power to do something about it.
Madison McFerrin dropped a video. I think she had to channel Reese just a little bit. Somebody sent me this. I saw it earlier and I was going to play it. Then somebody sent it to me. I said, let me go ahead and do this. And so this is Madison McFerrin singing. I think she's related to Bob McFerrin, but she's talking about Trump's conviction.
That motherfucker's guilty, 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 that motherfucker's.
I guess she wanted to put some house music beat behind it. My man Keenan also went to AI and came up with this.
Guilty as they come, felon on the run, yeah. Hush money dealt, son. Records falsified, done, yeah. Now you're in the pen. Court said what you didn't win. 34 counts, no friends. Now you're locked up in the end. Dollar after dollar, babe. Trying to escape the shade. Got your team, love to scheme. But truth's cutting like a laser beam. Empire built on lies, crumbling.
All right. I also before I go to my next guest, I also love when receipts are dropped. So Senator Marco Rubio sent this tweet out, y'all. The bad news is today the Biden leftists in New York made a mockery of our criminal justice system. The good news is Americans have sent Trump over $50 million since this travesty, and his deranged enemies just elected Trump for president again. That was a tweet that he actually sent out. First of all, there's no confirmation he's raised $50 million in the last 3 hours. Okay, so that's a lie. But this is the same Marco Rubio, y'all, the same one in 2016. I think this is quite prophetic.
But yeah, here's what happens in many countries around the world. You have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin America for decades. It's basically the argument he's making that he single-handedly is going to turn the country around. We've never been that kind of country. We have a president. The president is an American citizen who serves for a period of time, constrained by the constitutions and the powers vested in that office. The president works for the people, not the people for the president. And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this, no matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well one way or the other. He's going to be the nominee and he's going to lose, or he'll have thrown this party into its most chaotic and divisive period ever, and that's unfortunate because the Republican Party is the home of the limited government free enterprise movement in America, and if it crumbles or it divides or it splits apart, it'll be very difficult to elect candidates that hold those views at any level of government until we can bring the party back together.
What a massive sellout he is. After I go to my next guest, I couldn't help myself. You know, Paula White sent that post up. Some of y'all may not remember the commentary I did about her on TV One and Tom Jordan Morning Show. I'm going to go ahead and play it again because my ass is petty. Right now, I'm going to go to Attorney Jolanda Jones. Jolanda, you've been a criminal defense attorney. I think about right now, Donald Trump is not going to be paying his attorneys.
No, he's not. But he definitely is going to make a circus and a mockery out of 34 guilty convictions. What's really interesting, people take Like regular people, when we get convicted, it takes years and years and years for things to turn through the appeals process. I have a sneaking suspicion that stuff is going to go real fast for him. But there are things that give me hope. So I'm pleasantly surprised about the verdict because I thought for sure, Trump people believe he can kill somebody and get away with it. But there were polls that white people did that say that 1 in 4 Republicans said they will not vote for him if he's convicted. Well, he's convicted. They say 60% of independents say they won't vote for him if he's convicted, again, of a felony. He's convicted. In a close election, that could be the margin of victory that we need. So I'm hopeful that we can do something as a country. And I also hope that it inspires Black folks, especially that if Donald Trump could get convicted, then maybe some stuff can work out with us and that we've got to vote like our children's lives depend on it, because they do. Because the one thing I know for certain, his conviction does not stop him from being able to run for president. Literally, all you have to do is be 35 years old and live in the States for 14 years. And way long time ago, somebody actually ran for president while in prison. So the only way Donald Trump is going to get stopped is if we stop him. And again, I am pleasantly surprised because I've seen the criminal justice system fail us. I've seen the criminal justice system make a different law for white people when they're charged with the same thing Black people are. So I'm hopeful that this will energize us because I think we were all shocked. I think we were all shocked that it came back so quickly, and he's guilty AF, and he does not need to be our president.
And of course, you've got your fellow Texans, Ken Paxton, Dan Patrick, and others. They're just beside themselves, just angry and upset. And the Attorney General of Texas literally said he's going to unleash all of his powers against New York and others.
So, first of all, I'm a lawyer. We ain't got no power. Texas ain't got no power over New York. They don't have it. But it's not unusual for the Republicans here in Texas to just lie about stuff. They literally create fiction. They lied during the elections. They just make things up. And the crazy thing is, people at least here believe it. But what they're going to find out, take your Texas self to New York and see what happens to you. So the evidence against Trump was strong. They believe Stormy Daniels, just because she does what she does not mean that Trump did not pay her to keep her quiet. He interfered in the 2016 election, and I am terrified if he gets elected, because this is what I know. The same thing that Greg Abbott, our governor, is saying, oh, they've weaponized the court system, it's a kangaroo court. Trust me, Trump is going to get elected. He's going to eviscerate the courts. He's going to appoint 2 really young Republicans to the Supreme Court. He's going to exact political revenge on the people that he believed came after him. And if people think things can't be worse than they are now, they are wrong. They are absolutely wrong. And for white women, because they're the reason why Trump got elected in the first place, including the Democratic white women who chose him over a person who grabs you know what, over somebody who was like them, Hillary Clinton, who was their hero. He's the reason that they don't control their bodies and they can't have abortions. And if you think it can't be worse, it is. They're going after doctors. They're going after family members who support their loved ones. It's going to be really, really, really bad. And I pray for that. So for Black folks, I think it is really exciting, surprising, pleasantly surprising that they convicted him. And it's my understanding that there were people on the jury who were Trump supporters, but the evidence was so strong. He got convicted on all 34 counts. You know how rare that is? They normally throw something by the wayside. But the man does not respect the law. And trust and believe that when he's unleashed, if we allow him to be president, he's coming after us. He's coming after Black people, and he's coming after all of his political enemies. And Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick and the people here in Texas that I fight against all the time, because just in case you don't know, I'm in the Texas legislature. They are flat out fools. They lie. to get anything that they want, and people take their lies as true. So we better do something now. This may be the only moment in history that we actually have the power. And if we don't use this conviction to stop him from being president, then actually shame on us, because he's dangerous. And if you listen to the Supreme Court, there was an argument where some of the people on the Supreme Court said that Trump could actually get Secret Service to murder his political enemies if he thought it would hurt the United States.
That was a legal argument his folks actually made there in court. Here is, of course, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. This was a sham show trial. The kangaroo court will never stand on appeal. Americans deserve better than a sitting U.S. president weaponizing our justice system against a political opponent, all to win an election. We must fire Joe Biden in November. I guess he would know. He would be an expert on weaponizing office, concerning what he has done in Texas since governor.
He weaponizes it. But here's the thing. What they do is they make leaps, right? The Manhattan DA ain't have nothing to do with Biden. They ain't the same people. They're just not. So you take anything that happens against Trump, whatever city he's been tried and convicted in, and then you sit up there and you try to hang it around Biden. So, I just refuse to believe, I don't want to believe that Republicans are that dumb.
They are.
But it seems like they're really that dumb.
No. They're that dumb, but also their supporters are that dumb. And I tell you, the easiest way to become a millionaire is to be a self-hating black person. You will be a millionaire literally inside of a year, because they will pour money into you. That's how they actually roll. Jolanda, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland.
I told y'all this here. I'm going to play this here, then I'm going to get final comments from our panel here. Because, that tweet from Paula White really pissed me off. And the reality is that Paula White, because that tweet is why she's persona non grata at any black church now, with her support of Trump. And she can't show her face in no Bishop T.D. Jakes event. Y'all notice you ain't seen her at nothing with T.D. Jakes since she was out there supporting Trump. So it was 6 years ago when I dropped a commentary about her on TV One and the Tom Joyner morning show. Well, she done pissed me off with that little tweet. So I said, you know what? A lot of y'all today may not have heard or seen that commentary where I had a few words to say about her. So what the hell? We just gonna go ahead and play it again. Folks, recently, Pastor Paula White was on Jim Bakker's television show, and she had a few things to say about Donald Trump and Christianity and the people who've been criticizing him. Press play.
How can the president withstand the hatred and the pressure? Everything he says, they turn it around.
Yeah.
Paula, there's never been hatred like this.
I've never
to
seen
a president.
It. Never in my life seen it.
They want to trip him up. They ask for him to be assassinated even.
I've never in my life. Okay, I'm going to even take it further, right? I'm going to take it further because we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. And there are people right now that are sending hate mail to me right now that are going to say, I can't believe you say this, but you've got to recognize what the real deal is. Especially if you are a Christian right now, you have a responsibility that Jesus Christ gave you the infallible word of God and told you that you are not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against darkness, against wickedness. And so you know the quadrants of the enemy, and the principalities are going crazy because principalities want to control nations by controlling a person. And principalities cannot control this man because he surrounds himself with Christians. Yeah. He is a Christian. Pretty amazing. He is a Christian. He loves prayer. And like John said, he is fierce. He has a fortitude. He has an inner strength. But no man could withstand in the natural this kind of pressure. So I'm going to take it a step further. We've got to pray. Yeah. I mean, not just pray, but fervently pray. Yeah. Men ought to always pray and not faint. We have a responsibility, whether you like him or don't like him. You can't stand in God's word and not be responsible to pray for those who are in positions of authority. It is our God-given God-given mandate. It is our responsibility. You've got to pray the will of God to be done for him and through him. You've got to pray in alignment, not soulish prayers, because if you pray soulish prayers, they're going to backfire and come back on you, and that which you are praying against will come back, and that which you judge another person with, that judgment will be met upon you, and destruction will come to your own family, because that's what the Word of God tells us. The Word of God says we are to pray in accordance to the Word for those in authority, that we may live peaceable. So we've got to pray for our president. We've got to pray for our Senate.
Yes.
We've got to pray for our Congress.
Yes.
We've got to pray for every person. Then I'm going to take it further. Our acts of faith, because more than just praying, we've got to do something. Because this man, I have never seen the battles. You really want me to get into all this?
Yes.
Because we've got 130 vacancies in the lower court, and he is appointing exactly what we have asked for, why we put him in position as the president. We said, we will put you in because we want originalists. We want constitutionalists. We want our Supreme Court to be like Neil Gorsuch. He did it in the fastest, which was an absolute miracle by God, because that had not been done since 1881. But we've got 130. And what does lower court appointments have to do with your everyday living? With your everyday living. Because Supreme Court justices, if we get two more, come on, if we get two more, and right now, I know right now, we are scaring the literal hell out of demonic spirits by me saying this right now, because if we get two more, we will be able to overturn demonic laws and decrees that has held this nation in captivity. Please pray for me.
Oh, let me address you, Pastor Paula White. I'm going to take you to 1 Samuel 10, verse 17, when Samuel called the people and said, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel up out of Egypt. I delivered you from the power of Egypt and all the kingdoms that oppressed you. But you have now rejected your God who saves you out of all your disasters and calamities. And you have said, no, appoint a king over us. So now present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and clans. See, that's when the prophet Samuel then anointed Saul, because the people wanted a king. Here's what we know, Pastor Paula White. The people of America rejected God. They rejected a godly man. You had the audacity to say, how can anybody withstand what Donald Trump has gone through? How about 8 years what President Barack Obama went through, when the same person who you praise questioned his Christianity, questioned his faith, dared present the birther movement as somehow he was not a full American? That was an outright lie, but you stood with that man, the same man who said he grabbed women by the vagina, the same man who said he will force himself upon women to kiss them when he wants to, the same man who chastised Senator John McCain, who was a POW, the same man who chastised Mexicans, calling them rapists and calling them criminals, the same man who is not shown at all how to act like, sound like, or be a Christian. Oh, how dare you say that, when the same man you praise and say to pray for said he has seen no reason in his life where he should somehow ask for forgiveness, when we know doggone well the moment of being a Christian is when you have to ask for forgiveness. You have to ask for grace. See, it was Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German theologian, Pastor Paula White, who called this cheap grace, as when people commit sin, ask for God's forgiveness, and then go out and do it again. Here's the reality, Pastor Paula White. We are going to pray for this president, because we have evil in the White House. We have somebody who wants to attack people of color, somebody who wants to attack the poor, somebody who wants to attack Muslims, who wants to break up families. You dare say nobody else has come under this kind of attack? Oh, please explain to me why so many conservative white evangelicals like yourself have been quiet. Tell me why y'all excuse his comments about Charlottesville, where he essentially aligned himself with neo-Nazis and white supremacists. You pastor a church in Orlando, Florida, that Zachary Timms used to pastor, but before he died, as largely an African-American church. I want you to stand in front of them and tell them why in the world they must stand in support with Donald Trump when he is trying to take away their right to vote, when he has a sham voter fraud panel. You tell me how that is Christian. You tell me what is Christian about trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, where people who are sick, disenfranchised, will be thrown off and not have health care. Please show me in your Bible where that's somehow a Christian principle. I dare say this, Pastor Paula White, you are supposed to be a prophet, P-R-O-P-H-E-T, not P-R-O-F-I-T. God calls for the prophetic to stand up, to question people in power, to challenge them. Because let me remind you, it was the prophet Samuel who went to Saul and told told him he was doing wrong, who said that you have went against the commandments of God. Let me remind you, Pastor Paula White, it was the prophet Nathan who went to David and said, you sinned against God by laying with Bathsheba. What we need, Pastor Paula White, are not people who wave their Bible trying to get conservative Supreme Court justices. What we need are people who are going to actually follow that Bible. I suggest you call Reverend Dr. William Barber to have a conversation about what it means to actually be a prophetic voice in the 21st century. I suggest you go read Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail, where he was talking to folks just like you who were saying black folks are pushing too much. And I dare say you use a prophetic voice to look Donald Trump in the eye and say it's time for you to stop acting like a grown child and to act like a man, to respect the office of the presidency. What I expect, Pastor Paula White, somebody who has been raised up, who has been built up by virtue of talking and preaching in black churches, to have an understanding of what black folks are going through. So you want us to pray for the president? Oh, we're going to pray for the president. We're going to pray for the country, because the country asked for a king. The country turned their back on God, and now God said, I'm going to give you the desires of your heart, which always ain't good. Pastor Paula White, we got a word for you, and that is be a prophetic voice and don't just be a profitable voice.
Weekdays on TV One.
Now, did y'all hear some of the stuff that she said in there? They did get those 3 Supreme Court justices. And you see what they're all about. Paula White is a fraud. Paula White is shameful. Jim Baker, we know his ass is a convicted felon. Here's what we understand. And bottom line, these white evangelicals, they don't give a damn about the Bible, about Jesus. They don't give a damn about nothing but their pocketbooks. And we've been making this point that with this verdict, it doesn't guarantee Donald. He's not kicked off the ballot. He's not moved as a nominee. He's going to be their nominee. But guess what? End his ass. In every trial after this and in November. For all the folks sitting there saying they're going to pick the couch, no. Understand, the evil that they have planned is coming right for us, black folks and others. Now is not the time for any of us to be playing games and playing footsie with an evil imp like this man. Because the last thing we need is to see folk like Paula White back in the White House with her fake-ass prayers over a fake Christian, over a fake president. Final comments, I'll start with you, Lauren.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny the fact that I don't even know who Paula White is until this moment. I think it was Monique who said she's irrelevant, and to me, I guess she is irrelevant. But it does, of course, uncover a certain sector of the country that, for some reason, thinks that no matter what, Donald Trump can do no wrong, and the rules don't apply to him. And I just feel like that section of the country is going to have to answer for these moments. And I just want to channel the comments of Dr. Carr earlier about the fact that they just, this is a moment where really it does get revealed that they don't really believe in anything, and that they never actually believed in this thing that we loosely call the American experiment. They certainly don't believe in it for everybody. And so the hypocrisy and the double standards are going to really be shown in this moment in a huge way.
Reese.
I think that this moment reveals how fired up and how devoted the other side is to Donald Trump. And I think you should take a long, hard look at if you want those crazy motherfuckers making the decisions for you, if you want them making the decisions over your citizenship, over your right to move freely between one state and the next, one city and the next, if you want them saddling up on your ass, as Ken Paxton was saying, if you want them to have the reins of the country beyond the pockets that they have, the states that they have, which, by the way, are pretty big, if you want them to give Donald Trump a blank check, mind you, the reason why he's not in office right now is not because he didn't try to steal the election. It's because there were enough people in institutional positions that were unwilling to break the law for Donald Trump. The Republican Party right now is telling you the laws don't mean a damn thing if it means more power for them, if it means holding on to power, if it means disenfranchising you, and if it means being able to do whatever the hell they want to do, whenever they want to do, to whoever they want to do it to. So think long and hard about whether you, I don't know if this matters, just think about the absolute fealty that these crazy ass white supremacist motherfuckers have to Donald Trump and what Donald Trump and Republicans are promising for all of us in November if they win. If you don't take nothing else from this conversation, think about that.
Greg.
Well, thank you, Roland, and thanks everybody. This is again why the Black Star Network exists. The range of opinion and all of us being in consensus that we have to stop this man. Day after tomorrow will be June the 1st, and that's going to be a month when the United States versus Trump case comes down, Trump versus United States, and the Supreme Court is supposed to be answering whether a former president enjoys presidential immunity. We heard Representative Jones. When the man said he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not go to jail, the Supreme Court is charged with deciding whether or not, if he was president of the United States at the time, that's absolutely true. We're going to find out. We are in a historical moment, as we heard Counselor say, Monique Presley say. We're in an inflection point. And the only other thing I would add is, I know when you talk to our brother Sean Gibson, Josh Gibson's great-grandson, probably tomorrow, give him my love. He was just here, brought a bunch of students from the from the Josh Gibson Foundation to tour D.C., and they came by Howard and got to spend some time with them. Nothing like the sweetness of victory, because the all-time leader in highest Major League Baseball average is now Josh Gibson. It takes time, but in Josh Gibson's time, they couldn't even vote. So sometimes it takes time, but we must always remember to be consistent and persistent. And if we just stay true to ourselves, we can triumph over anything, including these white nationalists.
Folks, I got a couple of these shirts, and it says, vote like your ancestors died for it. And you've never heard me say that voting is the be-all to end-all, but you've heard me say it is a part of the process. And what we need to understand is that we have a part. 12 jurors did their part. These other cases did their part. But we can make sure that fool never, ever holds any power in the Oval Office, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And so I want folk to understand this is no time to play games. I think about that scene from the movie Malcolm X. He said, you came and got what you wanted. No, I'm not satisfied. Let me be clear. I'm not satisfied with one conviction. I ain't satisfied with 2 convictions. I won't be satisfied with 3 convictions. I won't be satisfied with 4 convictions. I'll be satisfied when he gets convicted 4 times and he takes that second L in November. Black people, we can help make that happen. But what we cannot do is do what black folks in Louisiana did. Sit their asses at home and watch this crazy, deranged MAGA Jeff Landry get in there, and the Republicans now have complete control of the state. They have now given him power to appoint all chairs of all 148 task force and committees in the state. They are voting right now to allow him to keep his schedule private. He says, to protect me and my children. But 2 previous governors had kids. Y'all need to understand, when these folk get power, they do crazy stuff. Donald Trump didn't have any business being in the Oval Office the first time. He damn surely ain't got no business this time. Tomorrow, we're going to deal with black voter turnout. And I'm going to walk y'all through what the numbers look like and how we have seen a drop in black voter turnout. And I'm going to walk you through the impact young voters and middle-aged voters and older voters. Look, white women are going to do what they do. Latinos going to do what they do. We have got to understand what we can do to make sure that he tastes a loss a second time. Because that, in the words of Gene Peterson, longtime Houston Rockets announcer, whenever the Rockets would win, he would say, "How sweet it is." And that will be another loss in the courtroom and at the ballot box. Let me thank Lauren. Let me thank Reese. Let me thank Greg. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All of y'all who are watching, y'all, we do this every day. I see there's nearly 8,000 of y'all on the YouTube channel right now. Y'all should be first of all, hitting that like button. Y'all should be supporting the work that we do, because we do this 5 days a week live. We live stream 7 days a week. This show, other shows on the Black Star Network. Yo, we hashtag bring the funk every single day. Your support is critical. If you want to see more stuff like this here, because trust me, you ain't getting this conversation on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, or even the Young Turks, or you damn sure didn't get it from no other black-owned media, because everybody ain't doing this. Essence not doing this. Blavity not doing this. Rolling Out not doing this. Black Enterprise not doing this. Urban One, Radio One not doing this. TV One, BET, none of them. We are every single day. Send your check and money order. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Send your check and money order, folks. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. And I went to Houston for Memorial Day weekend. My brother had 300 copies of the first at his house. Then my parents found 3 cases at my house in Dallas. I brought all of them back. And so if y'all want to get, these are the final copies. There are no more. There are no more. These are the final 300 copies. I'm not printing anymore. So if you want to get a copy of the first, personally autographed by me, you can simply go to RolandSMartin.com/the first to get your copy. Like I said, it's 300 copies left, y'all. That's it. That's the only copies left. I'm not printing any more. You can't get them from somewhere else because they don't exist. I own the book. I know exactly how many copies are left. And so, again, my brother had about 230 at his house. My parents found 2 or 3 cases at my house in Dallas. They brought them to Houston when they came to visit. So I got all of the books. And so, again, get your copy of the first. Personally autographed. I put your name on it as well. And so I cut the price. It's $10 plus $7.99 shipping and handling because the post office prices went up, y'all. Go to RolandSMartin.com/the first. All right, folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?